In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. Across the stars, ancient enemies rise once more to claim the galaxy for themselves, and even the Emperor's finest are called to battle. Today we find ourselves in the blasted plains of Erinax V, a once thriving Imperial world, now reduced to a desolate wasteland. Here, the traitorous, true sons of Horus have emerged from the warp, led by a dark champion who seeks to spread the taint of chaos. These twisted remnants of the once proud lunar wolves now burn worlds in the name of dark gods, driven by hatred for the Imperium that betrayed their Primarch. But they are not unchallenged. For where the darkness gathers, the light of the Emperor stands resolute. The Adeptus Custodes, the shining bulwark against the horrors of the galaxy, have arrived. With their unmatched skill and unbreakable resolve, they descend upon Erinax V to purge the corruption and cleanse the land of heresy. Two forces, ancient foes, will clash in a battle of honor and chaos. The Custodes, elite warriors of the Emperor himself, face the twisted sons of a fallen hero driven by dark purpose. Who will prevail? Will the golden shields of the Imperium hold? Or will the traitors prove that the spirit of Horus Lupercal still burns strong? Let the battle begin. Starting off with the Chaos Marines, we have their leader, Galeron the Pious, a Dark Apostle, and he is accompanied by two Dark Disciples. Now, he's armed with an accursed Crozius, which is a Strength 6 weapon with 5 attacks, AP -1 and 2 damage. And when he is leading a unit, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, you add +1 to the wound roll. So he helps them make some nice, wonderful attacks. The enhancement we are picking is Hateful Exhortation. So at the start of the first battle round, you select one enemy unit. Until the end of the battle, each time a model in the bearer's unit, so that will be the unit that the Dark Apostle is in, makes an attack that targets that unit on a critical wound, so that's a roll of a 6, you improve the armor penetration of the characteristics of that attack by 1. So if your weapon in this case is your accursed Crozius, which has a attack, let me get up the sheet again, has an AP of -1, it becomes an AP of -2. So that is fairly handy if you're targeting something that's got a good armor value. As for the Dark Apostles, well, they're not really much of a much. They're armed with a close combat weapon, 1 attack. They're just there to add ablative wounds, I guess, to the unit. They don't really do much in combat patrol. To be honest, I'm not sure what they do in the main game, because I haven't played Chaos Space Marines in the main game, but I'm sure they'll be fun, and let's see what's next. Next up, we have the core of any Chaos Space Marine list, a unit of Legionaries. Now, these guys are pretty simple. They're a basic squad. There's not much going on there, but that is what you need when you've got essentially your battle line troops. You need something just good, and Chaos Space Marines are great. Now, this particular unit has an aspiring champion who is armed with a plasma pistol and an accursed weapon. 4 Legionnaires have bolt pistols, bolt gun, and close combat weapons. 2 Legionnaires have bolt pistols and Astartes chainswords. 1 has a Astartes chainsword, bolt pistol, and chaos icon. Another has a heavy bolter along with a bolt pistol. To be honest, they all have bolt pistols and close combat weapons. And then the last one has a melter gun. Now, obviously, we've got a special weapon and a heavy weapon there, which is very similar to your standard tactical Marines. These are essentially what they were once upon a time. So let's have a look at the more exotic items in there. Now, your dark icon, your chaos icon, as it were, actually isn't doing anything in this game. I do not believe, at least it doesn't say in the sheet. It might say in some of the, stratagems. Let's have a quick look at them. Yeah, take a look at the stratagems. The icon doesn't actually do anything. It's just there. So essentially, your guy has just a chainsaw and close combat weapon, which is fine. Now, your exotic weapon there, the accursed weapon, it has 4 attacks. It's a weapon skill free weapon, which is pretty much the same for most of these here. Strength 5, -2 AP and 1 damage. So it's not going to do massive amounts of damage, but it's more likely to get through. Now this unit also has the ability to be split into patrol squads. So before the battle, at the start of the when you declare your battle formations, you can split it into 2 units of 5 models each. So again, similar to your tactical squads of old. Now we move on to the Havocs, a very traditional old unit that we've had in the Chaos Space Marines for, well, as long as I can remember. This is an interesting squad. Back in the day when I was a kid and we first started 40k, there was, there was always, for your heavy support squads, your Havoc squads, whatever, you keep the same weapon, try and keep it to the same weapon so it does the same job. Now in the newer editions where we've got multi-targeting, so not everybody in the same unit has to target the same thing, mixing is great, and this squad is very mixed. It's really cool. So you get in this Havoc squad, you've got pretty much everything you could ask for. You've got a Plasma Gun in your champion, you've got, they've all got a close combat weapon as well, you've got a Havoc Heavy Bolter, a Havoc Las Cannon, a Havoc Missile Launcher, and a Havoc Reaper Chain Cannon. Now, the Chain Cannon is the newest weapon to be added to the Havocs, back a couple editions ago, I believe, and this is a 24-inch range, 8 attack, 3 plus, so hitting on 3, strength 5, 0 AP, 1 damage. So it was, quantity of dice that you were rolling to hit something. The Las Cannon, obviously great for armor. It's your strength 12 weapon, -3 AP, D6 plus 1 damage. The Missile Launcher has got frags, or blast thing there, and crack. You've got your Heavy Bolter with sustained hits 1, 3 attacks on that. And obviously the plasma gun has its standard stuff there, which is great. So this is that's a really cool unit, and when you get your combat patrol, if you're building a Chaos Marine army, I get 2 and build some more, because yeah, why not? And now we move on to the Hellbrute. Now I've got to be honest, the Hellbrute is one of my favourite models in the whole 40k range. It's just so interesting. It's cool, it's horrific, it's got that body horror element, and it's just a really nice model. And I absolutely love it, and I must admit, when it comes in the collection later on, I believe it will be at this rate later on in the year, maybe this year, early next, I can't remember exactly how many weeks are left this year. But yeah, no, I'm going to get a couple extra issues. I'm going to put one in the World Eaters, and I will be definitely having another one for the True Sons. Now this is a Hellbrute armed with a Hellbrute Plasma Cannon, which is 36-inch range, D3 shots, hitting on a 3, strength 8, -3 AP and 3 damage. That's pretty handy. Nothing to be sniffed out. And you've got your Hellbrute Hammer, which is 5 attacks, hitting on a 4, strength 14, -3 AP, D6 plus 1. And this has got a total of 8 wounds. It's got a 2+ save. And yeah, this is going to be difficult to shift at toughness 9. Lovely model, absolutely beautiful model, and much better than the old Chaos Dreadnoughts. I remember the metal ones from back in the day. I think you could legitimately kill a man with one of those if you put it in a sock, as my friend Graham says, but don't. But they're beautiful models, so I really kind of want to get one, but yeah. I've just printed a Nurglish Hellbrute based on the old Dreadnought design, but you'll see that another time, hopefully. And that is the Chaos Space Marine army. Now, I've done these in the colours of the old Legion, Sons of Horus, because there's a little bit of a lore for a warband that sort of decided when Abaddon took over, they were like, nah, sod this for a giggle, we're going to go off and do our own thing. And they became known as the True Sons. And this is what my warband is. It's a True Sons warband. So they're a sort of, I suppose, Black Legion splinter chapter. Well, warband, as it were. And these are cool. Now, what about that in objective? What are they going to be playing for? Well, these guys are going to be playing Adulterous Despoilers, which kind of fits in with the theme of the Thousand Sons, who, one of the things, sorry, not Thousand Sons, True Sons, when they go to a place, they build a big icon of Horus and then burn it down and worship it. So they're great. So anyway, at the end of your turn, opponent turn, you score 4 VP if one or more of your units from your army, unless they're battle shocks, are wholly within your opponent's deployment zone. I don't know if this is possible because they're not exactly a fast-moving group, but let's have a look and see. So let's take a look next at the Talons of the Emperor. So we start with a Custodes shield captain, Tyvan to be precise, and he's a bit of a he's a unit. You can put it that way. He's got deep strike. His Sentinel blade has both a firing, a melee and a ranged attack. 2 attacks, 2+, hitting on a 2+, strength 4, -1 AP, 2 damage, and it's a pistol, so he can fire it in combat. On the hitting side, melee, he's got, again, hit on a 2+, strength 6, -2 AP, 1 damage. And he gets an extra wound thanks to his Presidium shield, which also gives him a 4+, well, he gets a 4+ invulnerable save anyway, but it's like, oh, so he gets a wound instead of an extra. Okay, fair enough. So he's up to 6 wounds. That is something. Or is he 7 wounds? I'll have to double check that one. Yeah, he's quite something. So yeah, 2+ save, 4+ invulnerable, toughness 6. Whew. As for his enhancement, he's gone for the Oromite Thunderbolt, which is a default enhancement, and basically he can reroll advance and charge rolls. That's it. Nothing particularly fancy, just that. So yeah, he's going to be quite a handful, I think. Now for the next choice, the Talons of the Emperor is actually quite interesting in that you do not have to take. You get a choice in this combat patrol, which is really interesting. I suppose because the box was set long before 10th edition came out, and well, these came with a lot of models in that came to quite a bit more than 500 points. So you actually get a choice. You can have Custodian Guard or Virtus Praetor, so guys on the ground, or jet bikes. And I've gone for the jet bikes, guys, with their Virtus Hurricane Bolter and Insectalons. I just think it would be quite interesting to have this fast-moving unit on there, and they've got their Hurricane Bolters, rapid fire free, twin linked, 18-inch, 2+ ballistic skill, 3 attacks, strength 4, 1 damage. Not that exciting, but their Interceptor Lance has the Lance rule, and it's also 5 attacks, 2+ weapon skill, strength 7 at -2 AP and 2 damage. So that is going to be interesting, and it flies. Well, they fly, so that's going to be quite cool. As I said, this unit is, this particular combat patrol I fear is going to be quite a handful. Now the next unit is where this army starts to get a little extra interesting. We have Prosecutors, Sisters of Silence Prosecutors. They're armed with bolt guns and close combat weapons. They have a psychic, anti-psychic ability, but unfortunately in this particular combat patrol they aren't facing any psychers, so that's not going to help them. But they do have their bolters with 1 attack and rapid fire 1. Standard bolter, nothing interesting there. They're toughness 3 with a 3+ save, 1 wound, so they are less capable than the Custodes. So these are quite fragile. So yeah, but it's still going to be quite cool. And alongside those, we have Vigilators. Now these guys have Executioner Great Blades. They are anti-psyker again, so not the best in this matchup. Devastating wounds though, so that's pretty canny. Strength 5 swords, AP -2, 2 damage, and they get to make 2 attacks. Again, only a 3+ save and toughness 3. But they do have a cool death parry, so each time a melee attack targets the unit, you subtract 1 from the hit roll, so they're harder to hit. So I guess that's kind of their invisibility thing that they have, that means people can't really see them very well. And that is the Adeptus Custodes, or Talons of the Emperor as I prefer, because it's a mixture of the two. And not very, these guys were originally painted for Horus, well, the Custodes were painted for Horus Heresy, and the Sisters were painted simply for this combat patrol. So it's the first time of this combat patrol out, first time I've had everything ready for it, and quite looking forward to this. But what about their default secondary objective, which they're going to be taking? It's Guardian of the Realm. So at the end of each phase, you score 1 VP if the shield captain destroyed 1 or more enemy models that phase. And if any of them started the phase within range of an objective marker, you get 2 VP instead. So that's at the end of the shooting and the close combat phase, which is kind of cool, I guess. So we're really going to be trying to use him to build up those VPs. And that's the army. So shall we go in and have a look how we've got the board set up and what mission we're playing? So let's take a look at our setup. So we are playing mission 6, that is Display of Might. And here is the table that we have set up. As you can see, you've got 4 objectives there, 2 in no man's land and 1 in each deployment zone. So that's going to be interesting. Let's see how we get on with the setup. The Chaos Space Marines roll to deploy first, and they split their legionaries into 2 units, one with bolters and a heavy bolter. The other will have the chainswords, bolt pistols, and the melter gun. And these deploy the first section, which is the bolters and heavy bolter, deploy in cover behind these Munitorum armor containers here. Our Custodes player then deploys their prosecutors pretty much opposite those legionaries. So these are Sisters of Silence armed with bolters. The second unit of legionnaires is deployed a bit further up the table, and they have the Dark Apostle with them as well to lead them into glory for the Chaos Gods. The Custodes Shield Captain is then deployed pretty much sitting on top of the objective in the Custodes deployment zone. And the oh, that's a very bad shot, isn't it? The Havocs are deployed on the objective for the Chaos Space Marines. The Vigilators are then deployed sort of close to the Shield Captain, but not with him because they can't join in the same unit. And the Chaos Space Marines then deploy their Hellbrute behind the Havocs to help support them. And final deployment of the day, Virtus Praetors behind the Shield Captain and the Vigilators. So this is the board at the beginning of the game. Before we take turn 1, the Chaos Space Marines lost that, so the Custodes will be going first. And yeah, this is how the board is set up. So let's crack on and see what happens. So, starting with turn 1, we have the Custodes turn, and the Prosecutors move up the board, and they advance 4 inches. The Vigilators on the other side of the board also move up, and they advance 3 inches. The Virtus Praetors move right up the centre of the board to their maximum movement, and then open fire with their Hurricane Bolters against the Legionary squad with the Dark Apostle. They get to shoot 9 times, that's 3 times per Virtus Praetor, scoring with 8 shots and wounding with all but 1 of them, thanks to having the twin linked rule. This kills 2 of the Legionaries, leaving them with 3 members plus the Dark Apostle. Moving into the Chaos Space Marines turn, the Legionary squad with the Dark Apostle, that which took the injuries in the last round, move towards the objective. They choose not to advance, which I didn't understand, but that's what it is. The other Legionaries move around the side of the Munitorum armor containers, advancing 3 inches up the board. Meanwhile, the Hellbrute moves up the centre of the board there towards the Virtus Praetors. The Havocs, who stay still, then decide to open fire on the Virtus Praetors, identifying them as, well, one of the only things they can hit and the most dangerous thing on the board to them. The Heavy Bolter scores 2 hits and wounds once, which is saved. The last cannon hits and wounds, doing 6 damage, which kills 1 of the Virtus Praetors. The Reaper Chain Cannon then fires next, hitting 6 times, wounding 3 times, but only causing 1 wound. The Missile Launcher then fires a Crack Missile, which hits and wounds the Virtus Praetor, but fails to penetrate its armour. The Champion's Plasma Gun then fires and wounds, taking another point of health from the Virtus Praetor who's been damaged previously. The Hellbrute then fires his Plasma Cannon 3 times, hitting with all of them and causing 2 wounds. The first shot vaporizes the wounded Virtus Praetor, but fails to penetrate the armor of the last remaining one, meaning that in that turn, the Chaos Space Marines have killed 2 Virtus Praetors. So, moving into turn 2, and the Custodes are controlling a single objective marker in their deployment zone that scores them 5 victory points. The Prosecutors then move towards the symbolic site nearest to them, as do the Vigilators. The Virtus Praetor then moves towards the Legionaries and the Dark Apostle, hoping to do some damage to them. And the Shield Captain then moves up the board and advances himself, which gets him a further 2 inches. The Prosecutors then open fire with their bolt guns against the Legionaries with the Heavy Bolter, hitting them 7 times with 10 shots and causing a total of 3 wounds. However, due to the particularly good power armor save of, Marines in general, the Legionnaires only lose a single wound, which goes on to one of the bods there. The Virtus Praetor then fires with his Hurricane Bolter, hitting the Legionaries with all 6 of his shots, 3 extra thanks to Rapid Fire 3, and he causes a total of 4 wounds. Again, Legionaries have got a pretty decent save in general and only causes a single wound on them. The Virtus Praetor then charges into combat and manages to get in, meaning he's going to do some damage against those Legionaries. The Vigilators also attempted to charge in, but they needed 8 and they only got a 6 on their roll, so they left out of the combat. The Chaos Space Marines immediately use the Empathic Rights stratagem, which gives them a 4+ invulnerable save. The Virtus Praetor also adopts the Daktari stance, giving him sustained hits 1, and strikes the Legionnaire, 4 of his 5 attacks hitting, and he gains an extra 2 thanks to the sustained hits. And 4 of those in total cause wounds. The Legionnaires are forced to use the invulnerable save from the Emphatic Rites, but all of them are wiped out, leaving just Dark Apostle on his own. The Dark Apostle then strikes back with his Accursed Crozius, hitting with all 5 attacks, and he's taken the Dark Pact that gives him sustained hits 1, so he gets an extra 2 hits as well. Only 2 of those 7 hits actually cause wounds. The Virtus Praetor then saves 1 of the wounds, but the other pierces his armor, taking 2 of his 4 wounds away. The Dark Apostle then passes his leadership test from the Dark Pact, so loses no wounds there. Moving into the Chaos Space Marines' turn, they control a single objective marker and gain 5 victory points as a result. In this turn, the Dark Apostle withdraws from combat with the Virtus Praetor, and the Hell Brute moves towards her. The remaining Legionaries then move towards the Prosecutors, hoping they can do some damage there. The Legionaries then open fire on the Prosecutors with their bolter guns, scoring 6 out of 8 shots, and wounding with all 6 of those. That manages to kill 2 of the Prosecutors. At this point, the Heavy Bolter then opens fire and hits with all 3 shots, wounding with 2 of them, killing a further Prosecutor. Now it's the Hellbrute's turn to have some fun, and he fires his plasma cannon at the Virtus Praetor twice and wounds with both shots. Virtus Praetor is forced to use her invulnerable save, but she only saves 1 and failing the other, which removes all of her remaining wounds. The Hellbrute then fails its hazardous test and loses 3 wounds itself. The hazardous test is caused by using the plasma cannon, which is a hazardous weapon for it. The Havocs then fire their weapons at the Vigilators, being the only unit they have line of sight to. They fire the Reaper Chain Cannon first off, scoring 4 hits, all of which wound, killing a single Vigilator. The Heavy Bolter then fires next, scoring 4 hits thanks to sustained hits 1, and of those 4, 3 wound, but kill none of the Sisters of Silence. The Las Cannon fires next, kills a Vigilator, followed by the Missile Launcher, which launches a frag missile at them, causing 5 shots, of which 3 hit and 2 wound, killing a further Sister of Silence. The Legionaries then charge the Prosecutors and make it into combat with them, getting them all nicely surrounded there. The Legionaries then attack the Sisters, hitting them with 9 out of 15 attacks from their close combat weapons, and wounding them a total of 5 times, which is enough to wipe out the remaining Vigilators, allowing the Legionnaires there to claim the symbolic site there. So at the end of turn 2 there, the Custodes are looking very dire. The Chaos Space Marines have lost 5 Legionaries, but the Custodes there, they've lost a total of 1 squad of Sisters of Silence, most of the other squad, and the Virtus Praetor, so the Shield Captain is going to have to get to combat and do a lot of heavy lifting here. So here we are at the start of turn 3, and it's not looking great for the Custodes, not the result I was kind of expecting. So here we have the Shield Captain and 2 Vigilators left on the Custodes side. So that is not great for them really, is it? The Chaos Space Marines haven't really taken the kind of pounding I was expecting them to take. I guess that's... I'm not sure, but let's keep going and see what happens. Okay, now before we move on to what happens in the game, just need to point out the Custodes scored another 5 victory points because they controlled the objective marker in their deployment zone. Remembering, in combat patrol, objective markers are sticky. So the shield captain decides he's going to move towards the legionaries. He wants to gain revenge for those prosecutors. In the meantime, the vigilators sort of just consolidate their position around the symbolic site up there. The shield captain then opens fire with his sentinel blade, having a sort of bolter attached to it, hitting with both shots and wounding with one. The legionary, who was already injured, is killed by that, so that reduces that legionary group down to just 4 legionaries. The shield captain then charges in to the legionaries, making it into combat with them, and he attacks with the Decatari stance with sustained hits 1 there, and scores from all 7 of his attack, plus an extra 2 from sustained hits. And of those 9 attacks that hit, 8 of those cause wounds on the legionaries. The Sentinel Blade is an amazing weapon, and unfortunately for the legionaries, they just cannot stand against it. It kills 3 of them and leaves the last one on just a single wound left. Now, thanks to the secondary objective, Guardian of the Realm, this scores an extra 2 victory points at the end of the turn, leaving the Custodes on 12 victory points because they killed a model that was controlling an objective. So now it's time for the Chaos Space Marines to strike back. They immediately score 5 victory points from the objective marker in their deployment zone, giving them 10 victory points to the Custodes 12. The Havocs move down the wall to put them within firing distance of the shield captain, whilst the last remaining legionary, armed with a heavy bolter there, steps out of combat with the shield captain withdrawing. The Hellbrute moves towards the Vigilators, accompanied by the Dark Apostle. The Hellbrute then opens fire on the Vigilators, getting off 2 hits, both of which hit, but only one of which wounds, and that does kill a Vigilator who is just vaporized into nothingness. The Hellbrute passes his hazardous test, and the Dark Apostle attempts to shoot the Vigilators with his bolt pistol, hitting once but causing no wounds. The Havocs are only able to fire the chain cannon, the missile launcher and plasma gun of the shield cannon, as the las gun and heavy bolter are just out of line of sight. They're just too far behind the containers for them to be able to see. They also got a plasma gun that can hit as well. The missile launcher fires a crack missile, both hitting and wounding the shield captain. And sadly for him, his shield can't resist the damage, and he takes 5 wounds in total from that missile launcher, which is not great for him. The chain cannon then fires, scoring 5 hits, of which none cause wounds. The plasma gun then shoots on supercharge, hitting the shield captain and wounding him. Unfortunately, the shield captain can't stand the power of the plasma shot, and he is immediately vaporized, ending his watch. However, he does get a spot of revenge as the champion fails his hazardous roll and dies himself to the danger of his own plasma gun. The Hellbrute then charges into the remaining Vigilator, gets into the combat. The Dark Apostle also attempts to make the charge, but fails with a double 1. The Hellbrute hits the Vigilator with his hammer 3 times, wounding with all 3. But sadly for our Sister of Silence, her armor isn't enough to resist the force of the Hellbrute hammer, and she's splattered across the ground, leaving shards of armor and naught but a bloody smear on the ground. So that went very differently to the way I thought it was. I honestly thought that the Custodes would absolutely walk over that one. They are, generally speaking, a very, very strong army, but clearly the Chaos Space Marines there with a Hellbrute and lots of heavy weapons were more than a match. I'm not sure if it would have shaken out a bit differently if I'd taken Custodes instead of the Virtus Praetors, but who knows? I mean, there were a fair few lucky dice rolls there at the end when there was a 5 damage roll for the shield captain. That was pretty damn good for them. Anyways, that's that one. That's a surprise result for me. I honestly thought it would be a cakewalk for the Custodes, but what do I know? That's why I do. That's why do you listen to me? I don't know anything. So anyway, thanks very much. We will be back with issues 4's battle report in the next few days, probably Friday. And we have 5 and 6 to go beyond that for the actual magazine. And we're already plotting the next one of these larger reports. So busy painting up some space wolves for their combat patrol. So anyway, thanks very much. Thanks for listening. If you like this, brilliant. Like that smash button. If you didn't, dislike it. Really good feedback, comment. All the usual YouTuber stuff that they say to do, because it genuinely does feed the algorithm and give you some nice feedback. So anyway, thanks very much. Keep rolling those dice and have fun.